The following is a time-lapse photographic record taken during the preparation and installation of a flood control pedestrian underpass at mile 23 of the Newmarket subdivision GO Train railway track, including railway track removals, replacement during the long holiday weekend of Canada Day from June 30th p.m. to July 3rd p.m. of 2011. The time that's allocated to undertake this work from GO and Metrolinx was from Thursday evening after the last northbound train passed until Monday morning, July 4th, for the first southbound train at 6:30 a.m. The staging area was pre-constructed commencing the 6th of June, and is located adjacent to the proposed culvert within a regulated area of the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority under a fill regulation permit. The staging area will be removed once the culvert is complete, and the wetland will be restored with same soil stored on site and planted with trees and other vegetation. The preparation of the staging area was very important to achieving the schedules, as all of the material and equipment had to be stored within the staging area prior to getting final approval from GO to proceed with the work. A mobile 300-ton crawler crane was assembled on the site to handle the lifting and placing of material during construction and to unload the precast culvert sections off the flatbed trucks onto the staging area compound. The crane was sized to handle the reach for the 20-ton culvert sections, all from the south side of the railway property limits. This is the last train that will go by before we can start our operation. There it goes, and the men are hard working, taking the spikes out of the rails. And we're ready to lift these rails out. They're trying to take all the stone out of the ballasts out between the tracks. And there goes the crane, moving them aside. And we're ready to start digging the berm from underneath the track. This operation will be ongoing for quite some time until, of course, we get down to a solid base to rest our foundations for our grid system and a box culvert. It should be made quite clear that we just didn't start this operation immediately. There's a lot of preparatory work necessary. For example, we had a huge staging area to prepare, and we had to actually remove a lot of swampy area and actually divert the creek around the excavation so that we could construct a proper material and equipment pad to run on so that this job could be done over a weekend without a lot of getting stuck with trucks and machines, especially with the 300-ton crane. So there was a lot of preparatory work required. This platform was built probably a week and a half before this actually started. From the left lower corner of your screen, you can see the lineup of the culverts sitting there that were delivered the day before yesterday and unloaded from the delivery trucks via the 300-ton crane and placed in order of actual installation. The other thing you should know is that this is a very tight schedule. We've got basically the weekend to get this thing completed and the tracks back and the train running again, the first train at 6:30 a.m. on Monday morning. So we really couldn't take any chances with respect to being able to work Well, it is 13 hours later, and we can see that the stone is being placed in the excavation. The excavation itself is actually complete, and the crane is coming back to actually sling the granular over the filter cloth to make way for the grillage system. You can see from the picture that will come on the screen what the actual slopes and the excavation looks like before they actually put in the grillage system. And there, of course, you'll see a picture of the filter cloth protecting the stone from siltation, and it'll be wrapped around the culvert once the culvert is in. Here you can see where the grillage system is being put together. It came in 3 separate pieces, and it is being bolted together in order to make a load spreader. It'll be completed in the next few hours, and we'll be able to start the installation of the first piece of culvert on top of the grillage system. You can see that once the grillage system is installed, they will be filling in between the steel with a clear stone halfway up the grillage system. And you can see some of the holes within the channels themselves, and those will allow once the actual culvert is installed to grout underneath the culvert to keep it set so that there is no voids underneath between the grillage system and the culverts. The grillage system was completed, and the first 2 sections were lifted in place by the mobile crane. There are a total of 29 pieces on this culvert to add to a 29.5 meter length of culvert, which means that each culvert is about 1.5 meters in length. They are all tongue and groove, or what you call bell and spigot culvert pieces, and you have a male and a female end, and they come together, and in between the joints there is a special neoprene rubber seal that will basically seal the culvert from leaks from the joints. From the top right-hand corner of the picture, you can see a different view of what's going on with the installation of each piece. And you also can see that at the bottom and the top of each culvert piece, there are welded plates that will have to be welded together to what they call as a redundant plate, which is there to keep the culverts together until the actual, what I call post-tension cables are actually stressed and torqued. You can also see the men on top of the culvert installing the waterproofing membrane on all the joints and all over the culvert with a fiberboard material over top. There's people actually welding plates at the bottom row on the culvert. There's some people also shoving in some bars on 4 corners of the culvert, which are the post-tensioning cables, so that these bolts can be torqued and keep the culvert together so it doesn't spread apart in the future. It has taken approximately 6 hours to put this culvert together and put them all in a row and get them sealed up. And it will probably take another 12 hours to weld all the plates on the side of the culverts with about 6 welders. And it'll be done on a staged affair where you do the bottom ones first and then you backfill up to halfway up the culvert. Then they move them over to the other side and do the top half. And then they come back on the other side and do the other top half. And of course, as we do that, we'll be backfilling with the granular material and compacting in layers in order to achieve the compaction required so that we have a little or no settlement over the tracks in the future. At this point in time, we are busily backfilling both sides of the culvert as evenly as can be on both sides so that we have no additional stresses on the culvert walls. Of course, as we go, there is compaction testing being done by the geotechnical consultants. There is welding inspections being done at the same time. The waterproofing membrane is being extended as the backfill of the granular material comes up layer by layer. And of course, there is some other activity going on the north side of the culvert as well. If you might notice that we are clearing some bush and actually constructing the outfall swale that will eventually carry the water from the culvert out to the Shift Creek for flooding purposes. As you can see, it's quite an operation. We have a sprinkler truck actually dousing the gravel with water so that we can achieve its optimum moisture content so that we can get its optimum compaction. As you can see, the machine in the background on the north side of the culvert is actually grading the area where the spillway is going to be constructed. We're trying to do that so that we don't hide our axis from the back in the future. So we've got to try to get this done at the same time as the backfill is being backfilled with the granular material. We are at a stage now where we're getting closer and closer to the top of the culvert, and the compaction is working out fine. The actual excavation of the outfall channel is being done as we go, and the trucks are carrying out the fill over the granular, which also helps to compact the actual granular material on either side. The waterproofing membrane has been installed, but in order to protect the fiberboard and the membrane itself, we have to actually supply, lay, and compact some very fine sand so that we don't make any holes through the membrane. And then once we have the layer of sand, a sand cushion over it, they will start with the actual granular material, the same as the ones are on the side. And it will continue to go up on the culvert as even as possible on either side. You can also see that one side is a little higher than the other, but that is to provide a roadway for the trucks to be able to take the fill out from the north side of the culvert and construct the outfall channel for the floodwaters. So it is 3:30 a.m. and we've pretty well reached the top of the culvert with the backfill, and all of the fill has been removed from the north side of the culvert for the outfall channel. We are now trying to concentrate in getting the ballast for the track back up to grade, and it'll be a different operation because it'll be a lot easier to maneuver machines on top of the culvert, and we'll be able to actually form the road where the original rail system was placed before. We're now at 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, and we're basically right up almost to grade, and they'll be putting the ballast back so the P&R people from Go Train can actually put the tracks back onto the right-of-way. We're making very good time. 7:30 a.m. and it looks like we're going to be done here early. Things have been going very well. The guys have done an excellent job, right up to date, and we might be finishing this early today. But you can see that we're installing the final topping of the topsoil over the slopes for stabilization and vegetation later on. We're also placing the ballast for the tracks. And the compaction, of course, to date has been checked by the geotechnical people, and they're ready to get P&R back in here to talk about putting the track back very, very soon. Okay, so now we're ready to put the track back on and get the crane back in to actually lift the tracks back into place. There is a little bit of a hitch, of course, as you'll see. The tracks have been sitting in the sun for quite a few days, and they've expanded. It's going to take some time to try to cut a fraction of an inch off the track in order to get it to fit in perfectly so they can tie it together. Strange kind of situation, but it happens all the time with steel. You have this contraction and expansion between cold and hot. It looks like we've got the grader from CN coming in and checking the grade on the track, and it looks like we've got everything in place and with time to spare.